a program that aims to spark off travel and events desire and show you how the business events ecosystem can turn the business wheels again in this new era. The business event stakeholders have been spending time preparing and adjusting themselves with the new protocol in the last several months by putting into practice the clean, health, safety, and environmentally sustainable guidelines by tweaking their SOP to suit the new protocol and training staff to be ready for the new era. As the year is turning in just a moment, the Indonesian business events stakeholders are getting ready to put the country back on track after 2020's major downturn. In the next hour, industry leaders will discuss how regional and local trends, challenges, and opportunities will shape Indonesia's strategies to get the business event sector up and running again. There will be a question and answer towards the end of the discussion. And we would like to invite the audience to post their questions in the Q&A box. Please allow me now to introduce our distinguished speakers. The first speaker is Gary Grimmer, Executive Chairman, GainingEdge, a global consulting company offering advisory services in relations to destination, convention bureaus, and convention and exhibition centers. Good afternoon, Gary, and welcome.
Good afternoon, Ibu Mimi.
My next speaker is Levie Lantu, CEO of Bali Convention and Exhibition Bureau, or BaliCEB, the destination's new marketing body for MICE. Hello, Levie. Levie, can you hear me? And the third speaker will be the speaker is Ralph Scheunemann. Ralph Scheunemann, Chief Marketing Director, Jakarta International Expo, one of Indonesia's largest exhibition venues with more than 1,000 square meter indoors and outdoor spaces, meeting rooms, grand theater, and hotel. Good afternoon, Pak Ralph.
Good afternoon, Ibu Mimi. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hopefully you are too. Okay. Before we go into the outlook for Indonesia, Gary, could you tell us about the business event global trend post-COVID-19 that the industry needs?
Sure. I guess the place I would start, which would be a place that I think a lot of people are aware, is that the rebound is going to kind of go in waves. And the first wave obviously will be local because people will be traveling locally, not so much across borders, and then regional and then global in that order. And I know we may be talking a bit later about the timing of the rebound, but in terms of global business, our perspective at GainingEdge, we're seeing that as late 2022 and even into 2023 as far as global meetings happening and significant movement. And I think a trend will be, because of the effects of COVID and the contraction that's occurred in the marketplace, a trend will be smaller meetings with lower budgets. And that's basically because, and I'm talking here about the association meetings, associations are losing members because of the economic disruption. So there'll be fewer members attending these things and fewer people that can afford to attend them. As a result of all that, I think it's going to be a highly competitive environment. We knew that it was always a competitive environment between destinations for this business, but I think that competition is going to intensify. Everyone's hungry, everyone's eager to have the business come back as soon as possible. I think governments are stepping up and financing heightened efforts, so there's essentially a smaller pie and more people looking for bigger pieces. I think it'll be highly competitive. I think in a way, in a lot of ways, there will be opportunities for second-tier destinations where there maybe weren't before. And I say that particularly for those that are less expensive in terms of the costs of producing these events. So I do think that meeting planners of all kinds, not just association, will be looking for economies, will be looking for value, and will be looking for lower cost destinations, which in many cases will be second tier. So that's good news for second-tier destinations that are coming into the market. I think, again, no surprise to everyone, we're going to see hybrid meetings. We're not just going to see meetings that are just live meetings. All meetings will have a virtual component in the future. I think I'm being a bit definitive there. Not all meetings, but most meetings will have a virtual element. And one of the things that I talk about with people is that if I'm a PCO, for instance, I'm now a cloud PCO. I think that all PCOs are going to realize that part of their efforts have to be to represent this destination that's kind of in the cloud, and as well as the ones that are kind of the receptive operators in given destinations. So all PCOs that want to survive into the future, in my mind, have to become very capable cloud PCOs. And it raises an issue that I think a lot of people are thinking about, a lot, especially bureaus and even PCOs and venues. And that is, what is the role for destinations in terms of the pure virtual meetings? And that one is a really interesting one. We've had lots of conversations recently about that. And I think the short answer is, if your focus is on meetings, MICE events, because of the direct spending and the direct economic impact, then spending time on the behalf of bureaus or suppliers on virtual meetings doesn't have a payout. But I think it's going to force this issue about meetings really have lots more benefits than just delivering the consumption of hospitality supply or people coming and spending money. So I do think there's going to be this push for more focus on sustainability, on legacies, event legacies, things like the UN SDGs. I think there'll be a lot more emphasis on that. So again, in terms of virtual meetings, if your goal is to build a knowledge and creative economy, obviously it makes sense to host virtual meetings as long as you can leverage them. And that's a whole other discussion that if we have time, we can get into. And finally, closer collaboration between bureaus and events producers. I think bureaus traditionally booked events or helped facilitate events and then moved on and turned all the continuing effort over to suppliers, other suppliers. But I do think that there's going to be a heightened desire, especially again in the association industry, for ongoing collaboration with bureaus. So those are the ones that come to mind. Maybe during the discussion, we'll think of a few others, but I think those are the key trends.
All right, good. And so based on your observation then, what is the outlook for Asia and particularly Indonesia era? And how should the government and industry in Asia, specifically Indonesia, respond to this new trend and gain a winning position in the market?
My overall view of the outlook for Asia is that you need to think in terms of four major economies in Asia. I mean, we've always had China, Japan, South Korea, but I think there's a fourth major economy in Asia, and that's good news for Indonesia because the fourth one is ASEAN in the congregate. So when you look at ASEAN and how it's expected to grow over time, it's really going to become a major player in the world's economy. I know it's not just one country, it's a region, but still ASEAN, I believe, will be a focus. That's a good outlook. And the reason that's a good indication for Indonesia, obviously, is because it's got the biggest GDP in ASEAN. I think that, again, the recovery is going to be Asian first. It's going to be local and regional first. And I do think that Asia will be the first part of the world that really recovers. It's already demonstrating that in some parts. We're having some we're going back into COVID in some places, but I think Asia will come out of it first. And so I think it's going to be an Asia for Asia recovery. Again, if we focus in on international meetings from within the region, I think destinations will do quite well. So there needs to be a focus on the regional market. I mentioned that Indonesia has the biggest GDP. So I think Indonesia has enormous potential in this market. I think Indonesia, to be quite honest, has had an opportunity cost. And what I mean by that is that I think Indonesia could have done in the past and can do in the future much better than it has. So it's losing an opportunity by maybe not approaching the market as aggressively as it could or should. As an example, in our view, Indonesia, if you look at the data, there's always a close correlation between GDP and the size of your exhibition market. And so when you look at those two factors, Indonesia comes out as probably the weakest performer in Asia as far as the exhibition market. So I do think there's a lot more potential there, and especially in Jakarta, obviously. More potential in international conventions. You know, these international conventions have traditionally gone to Bali and Jakarta, and more Bali than Jakarta. I'll say that we at GainingEdge, we're about to unveil our third annual Destination Competitiveness Index. And one of the things that we show in there, we're looking at the top 100 cities in the world based on ICA data on the association side. And we're kind of showing how that various destinations are doing. Unfortunately, we can't include Jakarta in that because it's not a top 100 city. And in my mind, that's not criticism. In my mind, when I think of Jakarta as an economic powerhouse city, especially in ASEAN, major Asian city, major capital, big population, in my mind, Jakarta absolutely should be a top 100 city in the ECA ranking. There's room to grow. That's the good news. And I think there's also potential for other Indonesian destinations, and especially on the incentive side. I think there's a number of destinations in Indonesia that could approach that market successfully, especially now again that even second-tier cities are going to come into play. But I think in order to do that, there's going to have to be a good hard look at what customers are looking for in what I call incentive product development. I do think various destinations, with the help of their own governments and the national government, should be taking a close look at what kind of incentive product they should develop and how they should promote it. My advice to government, just very quickly, is to look at Singapore, Thailand, and Malaysia, because those are the powerhouse players in our business in Southeast Asia. Again, there's no reason that Indonesia shouldn't be at the top of that group, but it just hasn't been as active in the marketplace. That's the simple fact. So I would say that government should be looking at those other places for examples of their policies and approaches. And the government should focus on capacity building, helping the industry to become stronger. And my last advice would be to industry, and that is to collaborate more. Co-opetition, again, we talk about it's better to cooperate to build the market and then to compete to get your part. That's co-opetition. And I think that the world's customers are looking for industry unity. They're looking for indications that there's mature industries that have the know-how, know what they're doing, working closely together. So it's okay to compete, but I think that the supply community in Indonesia would do well to work more closely together, form some industry unity, and then really go after the market. It would be better for everyone if they did that.
Okay, good. And we have learned that the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy is currently restructuring MICE in your support. So what is exactly being done, Gary?
I think probably the most important work is being done right now in terms of setting the stage for a heightened market effort. We're updating the roadmap that we worked on a few years ago so that there's a clear direction in terms of how will Indonesia build its approach to this market and how will it be more successful in these markets, I should say, all the various MICE segments. So the first thing we're doing is updating that roadmap so that there's a really clear strategy and activity plan for building Indonesia's future. And second thing, which we think is really important, is the development of a MICE brand. Indonesia has a very strong tourism brand, but tourism brands don't really resound with these customers. It's important that the tourism brand's the lead brand. It's the one that's been projected the most. It's the one that in some ways defines Indonesia in most people's minds around the world. So what we really need is to develop kind of a MICE sub-brand that reinforces that tourism brand, leverages that tourism brand, but also speaks specifically to these customers so that they become more interested in what Indonesia has to offer. So we'll be working on that new branding, and lastly, a communication strategy. It's always important before you begin a major effort to go into market that you're really clear on what it is that you're communicating. The brand strategy will be part of that. We'll be defining what we think makes us different in Indonesia, what the benefits are of hosting meetings in Indonesia, how we can prove what we're saying is true, the evidence-based case for it's not just us saying it, here's the proof that Indonesia really delivers good meetings. So just that overall communication strategy so that we can have the most effective communications that focus on what we think our customers need to hear. And all that, again, is part of our brand building. It's also part of our acquiring more business for Indonesia.
Okay. Uh, I would like now turn to Levie. We are talking about Bali now. Bali has been the popular destination for tourists and MICE in Indonesia. Setting up BaliCEB was a means to develop the destination potential to the fullest. However, just after the bureau was set up earlier this year, the pandemic hit. So, what challenges are you facing in marketing Bali now, Levy? And what does the future hold for the island for both domestic and international MICE?
All right. Thank you, Mbak Mimi. Challenge and the future. There's a two key points that you just asking me. First, for the challenges, right after the BaliCEB has been inaugurated. I mean, if I can put it in a very simple, there are three big challenges that we are facing. Number one is the mindset. Number two is the cash flow. And number three is reset the foundation. The mindset here with this COVID-19, it's changed the mindset of the leadership. That means the way we think have to be different. We cannot change in old style, fashion, old school style. We have to revamp the way we are thinking. We have to look at, it starts from the top to the bottom, that everybody has to work in a strong. We have to be more resilient and support the team, especially during this tough time, and especially in Bali. We're working very close with the governor, province of Bali, and also with our region, which is Kabupaten in Bahasa Indonesia. And this one, it has to be start with the leader. So we're talking a lot with the leaders and say that, we have to have a new game. This we entering the new game, we have to work together. There's no way we can work, like BaliCEB work on their own. Can't. BaliCEB has to work with everybody on the islands, everybody that have a benefit of the tourism in Bali. Of course, it's not easy. Like typically if we're asking people to change, you have to change in the 3 months. No way. It's gonna, and especially for Bali's been enjoying tourism for many, many years and suddenly zero, zip, nothing. And then you have to ask them to change. It's a big challenge, Mimi.
Yes.
And of course, number two is cash flow. Bali used to put a target of USD 1.96 billion. That's the target. I mean, the first day when I got integrated, that's the target that I have to get. Whew, it's a big target though. And then with the COVID, and I said, oops, all right, we have to adapt to the new product. We have to adapt to the new service, delivery method, communication way. This is all the new strategy that we have to start all over again. Because we're talking about we have to review our cash in and then we have to review our cash out. Are we making sense? And of course, to talk about this, it's, we have to have a brave heart when we explain about the situation. And of course, the most important is the foundation reset, Mimi. I think, of course, we're talking about Bali. Bali have to look at three main market now. It's niche market, it's loyal customer, and then open wide market. And then the new normal messaging, we have to focus more on care, on security, empathy. We speak into our customer language. Not Bali is the most wanted destination, blah blah. No way. We can't speak like that anymore. We have to speak on customer language. And of course, solution to solve the issue. And we always have to look, what is the interest of our customer? What is the problem that the Bali supplier facing? What is our own association? Especially on the Bali Tourism Board, we have 10 associations. What is their problem? We have to understand the problem and we have to deliver the problem. I mean, before we're talking about big Indonesia, but we're talking about Bali, we have to look at the situation in Bali first, what Bali can do with that. And I think it's a big challenge, by Mimi, for BaliCEB. Yeah. And what's the future? Of course, I mean, honestly, domestic will be our main market. I would say that. And why it is domestic? Because first, there's a lot of pro and cons. Practically, reality, is Bali safe? Even domestic people, before they go to Bali, they question that. And then yesterday, government released swab It's a mandatory 2 days prior to anybody come to Bali from domestic market. International, I think, if not this week, next week, the foreign minister will have a meeting with other 6 ministers in Bali, sometimes within this week, and then they're about to review about the situation in Bali and how ready Bali is before the foreign minister decide to open the corridor to any country that they would like to open. So saying that, what is our future? Of course, our future, we still have a big hope. We want to have our tourism, back to the islands. We want MICE come back to the islands. And there's a lot of event coming up in Bali, especially domestic from a local, even a command paragraph event, and also other ministerial departments also doing the event here. And we've been exercised that a lot. And the key is we work together with everybody, with our PCO association in Bali, our suppliers, our hotels, and then there's no, single way to say that this is the right way. Well, if this our way is not right, then we have to revise it. We have to renew it. We have to open and be honest to ourselves which way is going to be suitable for domestic market. And then in the same way, we are waiting. If our foreign minister say yes, international is ready, like UNWTO team was in Bali last week, and then there's a publicity that, hey, Bali is ready. Not really ready, because you can stay ready, but it's depend on the foreign minister. Once the foreign minister, yes, it's ready, then it's ready. The message is here is that we still have optimism and we still have faith that Bali can be bounce back again.
All right. So let's now take a look at Jakarta, because Jakarta is also an important destination for MICE. And Pak Ralph, domestic business events have started pulsing in the country in the last few months. Have you seen business picking up for GI Expo?
Thank you, Mimi. First of all, this is a very good question, because our last event happening in our venue in the Expo was in the beginning of March. Since that March to now, almost until the end of the year, you can see we don't have anything. If you see the picture there, you can see that normally we have an average in the last, since the 2016, maybe almost 200 events happening every year in our venue. I'm talking here about the exhibition center, but the exhibition sector, not the meeting and conference. You can see that actually in the 2019, we achieved actually quite high, 259. It's one of our highest, what's called record. And suddenly, when I make the prediction for 2020, the number will be slightly higher, maybe around 260. But the fact is, because of the COVID, we only achieved almost not more than 15 events happening in our venue. Yeah, so we are dropping almost to 90%. So the question is that if you're talking, when are we going to picking up and something like that? We are thinking, I'm personally thinking, starting the second half of 2021, but that's also with still very conservative. Like Gary told before, that basically all the events, even the conference, is also happening with more smaller scala. Yeah, we're also going to do it. But our biggest problem in the exhibition is that because people cannot do it in the year 2020, everyone wants to do it in the year of 2021. In the beginning of COVID in March, everybody was still giving a short of hope that things can be normal again or better in November, December, and October, November, December. But the fact is, where we are right now, we don't know. What happened with all the event organizers now, they're starting to shift. So I have to be very careful regarding the calendar events, to help them to get the slot. But this is not an easy job, because if you're talking about the event organizer, maybe they're talking about themselves, their own company. But me as a venue, I have to accommodate all my customer, all my event organizer who's doing a job here. Yeah. We also have a convention center. It's just brand new, just 2 years old, become now maybe the biggest convention center in Jakarta. But regarding convention, it's also the same. we're facing a huge problem. If you are saying something are picking up, yes, but maybe more in the seminar, what is given by the government, maybe a government project, you know, not the private sector is doing something like a seminar or something like that, because, you know, the government, they have the money, they can pay. So if you see regarding the convention, what we are trying to do is that you can see that actually we have a three big sector: wedding, and then we have the government, and then we have the corporate business. So what we are trying to get is for the next year to come is more from the government sector, because they have the money. They try to help all the industry to come back in the, you know, like it used to be before in the 2009 to 2018. At the same time, we also own a Grand City in Surabaya.
Yeah.
In Grand City, there's some even happening offline and also hybrid. But I'm personally, for the B2B exhibition, I don't believe in this kind of hybrid exhibition. That's only temporary, only to give the relation between us with our customer, because exhibition is there for people, you know, to meet each other, to feel the to get the contact, to feel the product, to see, because that's also regarding the investment in this country and something. A lot of things are included in that one, right? So it's not easy. Like Levie say, Bali, I've been there in August, so sad, 90% closed. I'm going to Bali again in December to help the domestic somehow. I believe it's going to picking up, but only the domestic sector. Before the foreign minister opened the door for the tourists to come, when they open the door for Bali and Jakarta, then there will be a hope for exhibition slowly coming on the right track again.
Right. Okay. Now, my next question will be for Levy and Pak Ralph. So, do you see any new trends now or interesting requirements that you are seeing in this new era? And how do you accommodate those requirements? Maybe we can start with Levy first.
But Mimi, of course, you know, what is the new trend? I mean, if looking at my presentation, I put it in a very simple way. How can we cope up with the new trend? That's a slide number 4. I think the last slide, Mimi, so that everybody can see. There are 4 things that or not me, but me and the team and the stakeholder and the association, 10 association in Bali Tourism Board, we have to measure, remeasure, learn, unlearn, and relearn. So this term is actually helping us to cope up with not the trend, you know, what trend, customer trend or our trend. You know, it can be biased, but the point by putting a measure that we have to look at, you know, 360 degrees all around, you know, because honestly, with this COVID-19, everybody changed, everybody reset. So for Bali, we have the opportunity to look at our power, to look at our strength, to look at our weakness, to look at what we have to do. So measure, that means we have to be more intelligent, looking at what Bali has been done in the past and what they can do in the future, what the capability, what the capacity to do it. Looking at the new cycles in terms of when we're going on the bidding and when we start to do the business. Honestly, we have a lot of requests from event organizer, from PCO. They go directly to us. Hey, we want to do a event in Bali, and say, what, suddenly? And then there's no, let's say, how about the bidding? Oh, we lost all of the bidding commitment. There's nothing here in the bidding commitment. Everybody released the group. Everybody released the lead. So for them, for customer, they can choose whoever they want to be, you know, in the future with the event, which is mean the destination, which is Bali. So then we have to remeasure again. So that means we have to put our forecast carefully. We have to use our expert carefully, and we have to reframe our understanding of what's going to happen if we make a wrong decision. And remeasure, of course, we have to looking at the way we communicate. I would always look at 7 dimension when we remeasure about our trend. If we have to look at the MICE community needs. I mean, with this situation, all MICE community on the islands come together. So we bonding together. We strengthen our relation to each other. 10 association, we have to work together very close before everybody doing their own business. So I believe this is the time that we have to stabilization our supply chains. We have to look at our business tracking together, and then we have to forecasting them properly, and we become a part of the broader solution. So BaliCEB is not playing hero as a government body, and I'm going to become, you know, the one leading. No, we are part of the broader solution. And of course, we learn the innovation. So we have to revamp the whole system. We have to use our bidding system properly. We have to availability, you know, the prudence in our leads, our project. And of course, we have to learn, prepare ourselves for the next crisis. You know, this crisis maybe not going to happen. Maybe will even worse in the future. We don't know, but we have to prepare for the worst case to happen. And of course, intellectual preparation is not enough, but we have to prepare ourselves. So I think with that trend, I believe, Mbak Mimi, that we can learn, we can, you know, honestly, even myself, I believe what I've been learned in the past 10 years, maybe it's not going to apply in the next years. So I have to be honest to myself. I have to be brave enough to say, hey, that strategy won't work. The strategy that's going to work next year or next couple of years is going to be totally different. It may be awesome, the innovation, the technology, a lot of things that we have to absorb. So it's open mind. That's probably I would approach the new trend.
Okay, all right. And what about you, Ralph? What do you see?
Yeah, what
The trend.
can you get to the slide? Yeah, okay. What I see is that 4 major things there. We can see that Expo is one of the biggest reputable venue in Indonesia. So we are, you know, we are really taking care about the health and safety of our customer. That's priority number 1. We are following the regulation, everything what the government giving to us. Yeah, that's a number very, very important things. So second one is, of course, we are doing this virtual event compared to hybrids event. But like I mentioned it before, in the exhibition sector, maybe it's my personal idea, but I think virtual, if you do it in the sense of conference meeting or something like what we are doing it right now, it's more possible. But in the exhibition industry, okay, some people or some event organizers are doing it. But here in Indonesia, because we try to do it in Surabaya and already happening in Grand City. But once again, this hybrid event is being sponsored by the government. For the private sector, if they're going to do it, they're going to count it. Is it going to bring benefit or not? And then the other thing, of course, we have to upgrade all the technology in the system of Expo. We have to follow. Yeah, we have to follow not only in the exhibition center, but also in the convention to accommodate all the needs of our client. And that's going together also with upgrading of human resources. With this COVID situation, we lost a lot of what's called employees that we have to cut because there's no money coming in for the government, for the company. So meaning we have to make a decision. So what happened with the others employees? So they have to learn more. They have to upgrade themselves more. Before maybe they're doing only 2 or 3 things. Now they have to learn maybe doing 3 to 5 or 6 things. But by the end, I will say that the very important thing for the future of the exhibition is somehow like a collaboration, between the event organizer, between the smaller organizer who really struggling to run the show, maybe with kind of collaboration with other bigger event organizer, the show can taking place.
Okay, right. Hopefully so. Let's hope so. Okay, and talking about 2021. So, what are your marketing programs, Pak Ralph and Levie? Can we have Pak Ralph first?
Okay, actually in the exhibition industry, we already have our customers or our calendar even until the year of 2023, 24, even until 25.
Okay.
So I will say that 85, 80 to 85%, they are more our repeating customer or they're growing with us. So we are not really looking for new tenancy, new clients, because with our existing clients, we are already enough. We can fulfill the good occupancy of our venue. As a venue, the occupancy, we have around about almost 70%, 72%. That's quite high for an exhibition center, yeah? But if you say here in the revenue, you can see that actually we are really dropped. My strategy for the 2021, we are still minus 23%. But at least if I can still achieve that amount, I think we will be still very, very happy, because the events are going to be more smaller. Yeah. So in the month of January, February, March, there will be maybe only few exhibition happening, but that's also very depending on the permit of the government. I really hope that in April we can handle this Indo Defense show, which is a G2G exhibition. It's a huge exhibition, government to government. This will be maybe much more easier because the talking between the government and the visitor who's coming is not in the big number, right?
Okay, yeah, right. Okay, and what about you, Levie?
Yes, Mimi, thank you. You're asking for the next year and beyond. What's going to be the program? I mean, as probably if most of you listen to what Gary shared, that the association around the world, they keep losing their membership. That's the reality these days, and even up until today. So that means for the PCO or event or incentive house, any MICE practices that would like to have an event, they need to support the fund. So the fund to support this association to bring the event alive in whatever format they believe will applicable, it still need a big support from government, which is, if I'm talking about Bali, then of Bali, and Bali is related to our tourism minister, which is in this case is the MICE deputy of MICE. So we've been talking about this also with Bukiki, with all of the team in directorate MICE. And learn from Bali, we're supposed to open, but then it's closed again. It's basically, if you're asking, what is your program? I do have a program, but I have to revamp the whole program all over again, because you're asking then if Bali open next year, so what is your program? Right, I still have a program, but I'm a bit ashamed if I share now and then it won't open by January, then I have to revamp the whole program again. I will call Gary. You better help us. We have to revamp the whole program for third time. I've been talking with Bukiki, with Bu Iyung, and with the MICE team. Well, we're gonna do this together. This era, everybody has to work together. We cannot work in a single way or a single strategy. We have to collaborate. So rather than put a very a statement on what is the program, what a calendar program, I will put them in different 4 category. So it has to be sustainable, it has to be collaborate, it has to be have a good system, and it has to be authenticity. So any calendar, any program, whatever we're going to do, it has to be fulfilled these 4 criteria. Why? Because it's simple. With this pandemic, we have a lot of time to rethink again. What we've been doing so far to Bali? Are we always think sustain, or we abuse Bali? We use Bali just only for the sake of got money. And after that, do we care about Bali? Do we care about the local people? Do we care about their heritage? So if you're asking me what's the strategy, I think sustainable, we have to looking at all of this heritage tourism strategy, nature-based tourism strategy, think sustain and collaborate. I will collaborate. I mean, BaliCEB will collaborate with all MICE player, local, and also with the tourism minister, regency, with local government, with province, with Bali Tourism Board, 10 association, and look at the system. We have to be more lean, more effective, more efficient, and upgrade our integrated system in terms of operation, marketing, communication, and reporting. And being authenticity, there are 3 key focus that I would like to highlight. If anybody asking or would like to know what we're going to do with Bali authenticity, lead, connect, and conserve. So these 3 keys we would like to elaborate in any program that we're going to do for Bali.
Okay, so can you name Pak Ralph and Levy? Can you name the biggest events, if there are, that you have in your calendar for 2021?
All
And
right, for
also,
me, Mimi, I think for me, like there are three big events actually supposed to be happen this year, and
okay.
this event is actually I had a commitment with the tourism minister,
Mhm.
uh, to actually we have like a pre-event in
Mhm.
North America, and then the big event's gonna happen in Bali because the pre-event is gonna happen in North America. We have a big global fashion show, but this global fashion show is actually a part of the road show, global road show, and then they will lock it in Bali as the main event. And hopefully it's gonna happen June next year. There's
Oh,
there's a big one, and then there's another big events coming up. Um, Hopefully it's gonna be in May. But I don't want to mention the name yet, but I'll just
mhm.
give a hint here. It's gonna be a celebrity. So basically, this event is supposed to be based in Hollywood, in LA, but they choose Bali now. I was surprised, and I was thank God that why suddenly they choose Bali, because there are three destinations, but they end up the committee they decided it has to be in Bali. It's an honor for Indonesia that if we can host this event May next year, it's gonna be Bali will be, they will be attended by all of the big celebrity, the big star from LA. But the main purpose, they want to do it because they love Bali, and then they want to do it in all of the traditional authenticity Balinese culture, Balinese event. Instead of, they don't want to promote the glamours of LA event, but they want to promote the authenticity of Bali Island. So I think there are two big events that's going to happen next year in Bali, and I hope we can collaborate with everybody. We can work together.
All right, good. And uh, and what about Jakarta, Pak Ralph?
Yeah, Jakarta, basically in our venue in Expo,
Yeah.
even what's taking place, most of them are big exhibition. It's not a small one.
Ah.
Most of them are more than 20,000 square meter to 50,000 square meter.
Mm.
But that's why I mentioned it before, that in April, we are going to have this G2G. It's a exhibition with almost 50,000 square meter. And then I'm hoping that in February or in March, the consumer show, Indonesian Motor Show can take place. But
Mm.
that's very depending on the regulation, if we get the permit. Yeah. You're talking big shows, we have a lot. We have the SIAL, the food show. We have
Okay.
the oil and gas mining. We have the food show. We have the what's called furniture show. We have actually 80 to 90% exhibition that taking place in Expo is B2B. So
Right.
meaning it's very, very important for the economic of Indonesia. Yeah.
Mhm.
So in the year 2021, I believe that if the situation become better starting say in February or in March, I think we can still achieve maybe 70% back, but we are
Ah,
still about 25 to 30% down.
right.
In the year 2022, the situation will be maybe going back to almost 90%. I
Mm.
believe that the exhibition industry will be back in normal starting 2023.
Okay, good. Now we have a bit more time to go for questions from the audience. Here I have a question from Rajeshkas Rajaraman. He's asking, what about other destination in Indonesia? Is there any potential events for Q1 2021 and where we can participate? Yeah, it doesn't say who will be able to answer this. Who would like to take this question? Other
It's
destinations
okay.
in Indonesia? Yeah,
Yeah, probably but Mimi, I
yeah,
think
okay.
I can help. I think this is gonna be pretty much in the tourism minister portion to
Okay.
be able to answer this. Um, I think other destination. I think Indonesia is a huge country. I mean, it's depend if you're still looking at a small portion. I think Kepulauan Riau will be another destination that also ready, and considering they're very close to Singapore, Malaysia. it's going to be a good destination as well.
Mhm.
And then I think apart from Kepulauan Riau, maybe well, it's including Batam, and I think that's good. But if you love islands destination, maybe try to go to Papua and experience islands life destination. It's still pretty, still beautiful, but
Mhm.
of course, its option is always there. But again, as I said earlier, it's depend on our foreign minister decision whether international tourists can come or not, and when they can come, and if they can, what's the procedure that they can come. I think it's very important, especially if you come in a group with a small, medium, or large group. It's going to be, a procedure that will be taking
Mhm.
place.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And the next question is from Mary Halim. Question is for Pak Levy. How flexible is Bali's hotel with the cancellation policy in the near future? If we have upcoming events, is it better to wait and see or book it right now?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mary, for your question. In terms of the cancellation policy, um, we, because BaliCEB is part of government, Bali province, we encourage hotel to be more flexible in doing that. And especially now with all of the hotel in the name of MICE business, we all will come together and do a bidding or a promotion together. We would like to make as easy as possible for any leads that come to Bali to feel safe, and there's no burden for them in terms of cancellation. um, so we working on it, and we hope that everybody agree that the cancellation will be more flexible, and in terms of timing, um, well, for local, honestly, for local operator in Bali, it will be easier, but for international change, sometimes it's a bit challenge because they have to follow the international standard. So that's the only problem, Mary. But we hope through this situation, we all can work together and make it easier for hotel for the cancellation. Um, like in Bali, I think before pandemic, it's very strict regulation. They will charge your credit card directly if you did not meet the requirement. But in the future, hopefully, I cannot promise you what, but I believe I've been working in hospitality in the hotel industry. I knew how it's feel, but of course, hotel has to be very careful. But we have to find the right way to do it, Mary. So give us some times. Hopefully, by January, February, we should have this policy easy
Okay.
for everybody.
Here is an interesting question from Dinar Budi from the Double Tree by Hilton Jakarta. His question is, how do you see or forecast the impact of the vaccine that has been launched? Pak Rah, would you like to respond to that?
Regarding the vaccine, the
Yes.
question is the vaccine is already launched?
Yeah.
Soon, very soon. I think
Soon,
at the
very
end of
soon.
the year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the year. But don't forget that the vaccines being launched, the number is still very, very little. It's still below 2 million. It's only 1.2, and then it's going to continue in January, February, and so on. But the question is, with the vaccine, at least it gives us more hope, yeah, for people. If you stock, we don't need to talk in the MICE industry or something like that. Normal people, look at in Europe, they are all tired, actually. They want to go out. The biggest problem right now is that they cannot stay at home. The children cannot stay at home. They want to go back to school. Even I have to put a note or a questionnaire for my school, for my daughter in the German school in Jakarta, in BSD, if we as a parents willing to send our children back against January to school. So that's a question, right? If we are willing or we don't. But for me personally, I believe it in that, because you have to start. You have to start. It's good that in England, America, yeah, they're starting to do the vaccine. Germany are starting it next week together with the other European country, yeah? China already did it. But I believe we still have to wait for the first, I think, 1 or 2 months to see what is exactly the outcome of this vaccine. If the outcome is positive, I believe starting March or April, things will be slowly become in the right track again.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I would just want to ask. I want to add, Mimi, the vaccine.
please.
The vaccine is not going to impact the or the only way. I mean, the only tool to judge on the forecast part, but it's also, I mean, for international, especially for Bali, for MICE, we're also looking at the seat capacity, international connection, because if you're flying Emirates or Qatar or any international aircraft these days, today or next week or even next month, there's a lot of requirement that you have to fulfill before you arrive in the destination. So it's not only based on vaccine, but it's also based on the seat capacity, connectivity, and of course, it has to be two country. Yes, that country allow the people to coming in, but if Indonesia won't allow that people to coming in, what are we gonna say? We can't base, forecast on only vaccine. There's a lot of, key that we had to look at it.
Ibu, I was going to jump in there a little bit on the vaccine as
Yes,
well.
please.
And I'm usually a very optimistic, positive person, but I think we have to be a bit realistic because planning our future business, it's important for us to be realistic. I like what people are saying. It's not so much about the vaccine, it's about vaccinations. Until we have a lot of people vaccinated, and most of the scientists are saying 70% herd immunity. And until you have herd immunity, I think there's going to continue to be a drag to some extent. Certainly, if we had 50% of people who were immune, times will be better. But we are in a kind of a business where numbers are important. And until we can get all the people who we can possibly get attending these meetings, that's a challenge for the industry. And there's also planning horizons. If you think about incentives, they need to plan well more than 1 year out, because the whole point of an incentive is to incentivize people for an entire year. And so they can't actually plan until they have travel bubbles, which again comes back to your foreign affairs minister, I guess, or your health minister or whoever. And associations have trouble planning because even though we've got vaccinations starting, they have no clue when we're going to achieve herd immunity. And until we achieve herd immunity, you're not going to see things start really returning to normal. So their whole planning approach is, it's abnormal right now. And until it gets normal, it's difficult to plan. And if they have a planning horizon of 1, 2, 3 years out, you can see how that begins to domino. So again, I don't want to be too negative here. I'm just saying that we need to be realistic. To me, pre-COVID normal is going to be a really gradual process. And I think we're even talking late 2022, early 2023. I think we need to be prepared that it's going to take a while for this to come back.
Okay, all right. So I'm afraid we've come to the end of the panel discussion today, and we would like to hear your feedback from the audience on this session. Please join the survey that will pop up after you exit this session. The recording and will be available in the email that we are sending to all participants tomorrow. And I would like to ask Pak Ralph and Levie if the presentations are available for audience, Pak?
Yes, you can.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we'll be sending the presentations together with the email too. So please join me in thanking the speakers, Gary, Pak Ralph, Levie, and I would also like to thank the audience for joining this discussion. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mimi.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you,
Thank you.
Jane. Thank you, the whole TTG team. Thank
Okay.
you.
So
Thank
till the next, stay healthy and well. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mimi.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Gary. Bye,
Bye,
Pak
everyone.
Ralph.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Take care.